What's up everybody, my name is Nick and I am a super nice guy. Today I'm here to talk about sketching your design ideas before moving to wireframes or high fidelity comps. Sketching is a powerful tool a designer can use to rapidly think through multiple solutions to a problem, to communicate to stakeholders, and to gain team alignment early. Also, it can be done with little time and effort. Let's take a look. Okay, so here we are inside of FigJam. I'm just going to use this to demonstrate the point and go through a little bit of a sketching exercise to apply this approach and this thinking. Specifically here, I have my iPad hooked up, so I am still sketching. Figma recently rolled out a wonderful update to their mobile app so you can sketch and work seamlessly inside of FigJam and Sketch and do stuff like that. So let's just create a little scenario to show how you could work through multiple problems to a solution in this really lean and quick way. Let's say we are rolling out a feature for a wallet inside of our app. And we'll just leave it really open and vague like that, so just for the purpose of this. But we want a wallet feature, and there's a few ways we could go about it. But let's say we don't have a ton of clarity on the deliverables, on the features and requirements, and it's really leaning heavily on design to sort of explore some of these ideas. So this is a perfect time to start sketching. We don't want to spend a lot of time working through visual and high fidelity comps when ultimately we have no idea what we're really targeting. So let's jump into this. So let's say this is going to be for a mobile application. So we will obviously start with our sketches, our rectangles, which will be the phone device. But the beauty of this sort of hybrid digital analog that I do here is I can actually take some shapes and template out some things right inside of FigJam. And so I'll usually, instead of drawing the frame over and over again, I will create something like this, and then I will actually just duplicate this a bunch. And then I will select all of these and Command-Shift-L and just lock them. So essentially now they're templates that I can work on and they don't shift or anything like that. So I'll delete that one. And inside of here, I can sketch on any of these. Cool, so one little exercise in sketching and practicing iteration would be to try to fill as many of these as possible. Let's shoot for at least 2 to 3 different ideas that will really help us iterate and navigate multiple areas that we could potentially build out. So let's see, for the first one, we're going to say, well, if this is a wallet feature, maybe we need a navigation and it's going to be one of the core pages. So let's add in just a little navigation bar, and we will say we have maybe our home screen and just pretend that's an icon. And then we will make a little wallet icon here. And then maybe we just have an options thing like that. And we'll make this an active state. So really lo-fi, quick and dirty. Next, moving into the content of this. So if this is a wallet, what kind of things would we want to see on it? Perhaps we have our own card, or you can add a credit card. That's typically what a wallet stores, is your payment types. It might have cash, but a lot of cards, your IDs, things like that. So for the purposes of this, we will say we have a credit card that lives in the very top. The first thing you see, and maybe the most important thing, is this card. Well, what kind of things would we want to illustrate on the card? Maybe we have the specific card name. And a lot of this comes from just practice, repetitions over my career. But if you need help jumpstarting any of this ideation, it helps to, before this, look up inspiration. And I have a video on gathering inspiration, but that can really load up your idea process and idea generation before this exercise. So that's an option too. But we'll say we have the card name, and then we will show the card number probably, but we wouldn't actually show all of the numbers for security reasons. We would maybe only show the last 4. And then maybe just for some extra delight, we include some of that little chip reader thing there, and it looks cool and interesting. So after that, we have a credit card. We'll just say this user has one loaded. We're not even going to get into maybe there's multiple cards yet. We can do that in a different sketch. In this one, we have one card, and we think, what else would we want to see in a wallet? Maybe it's the recent transactions or the transactions tied to this card in this account. So let's see what that would look like. Let's go ahead and just call it transactions. And so I'll write that down there. And then maybe this is just a snapshot and we say view all next to that, and it takes us to a transactions detail page. But under here, I think we're good to go. Let's say what specific transactions were they? Maybe we went to Starbucks and that was yesterday. So we have a date there. Or instead of yesterday, we could say that was Saturday, June 11th. And then we can also say $7.63 was the total there. So that is one transaction item. Now for the speed and just working really quickly, since we know what that first item is, we can in theory just quickly drop in, almost if you're wireframing something, just blocking out content here, and we will just use this to fill in the rest of these items. Again, the beauty of this hybrid approach here is I can actually select these in FigJam, pull them down and duplicate, and then hit Command D a bunch. And there we go. We'll just pretend those are the other items. So that's all we have for the first concept. We have our card at the top and we have transactions at the bottom. Cool. Now let's see what else we can do, a different approach for this idea. And what I'm going to do is, you would sketch this over again, but in FigJam I can copy this and drag it over. So we're going to borrow the same navigation. We're actually going to borrow the same card and we will drag that over. Let's do a really quick one here and see what we can expand on and do something totally different. So again, not spending a ton of time, let's say, well, maybe the goal or the behavior is to have multiple cards added in. And maybe when you tap a card, you go into the actual transactions. So for this, maybe we have our user's first card added in, but we really want to encourage them to add another card. So we have maybe an empty state that is add card. And so the implied behavior here, or the desired outcome, would be to fill in as many cards as possible and really have this wallet fill up. Cool. Well, that's the second concept. We can move on to the third. Boom, done. So again, the beauty of this and what we are really going after is not making incremental changes, slight differences between these concepts, because that sort of stuff can come later. We're trying to have very different concepts under the same sort of theme. And so what we're going to do here is, again, to speed up my process for this, I know I'm going to stick with the card option as the hero, the main content, and again, stick with the same navigation and just pull those over. But what if for this, we want more details or metrics or analytics or statistics, any of these things, and we get really in depth with that. So underneath this card, let's say we have a row of two more cards, not credit cards, but the card component. And the first one is going to be your current balance. So we'll just say balance. So for the balance, let's say we've spent on this account $1247.30. So we know that's how much money we've spent in this account, and we will have to pay off if we don't make any more charges. Underneath that, we can also go a little bit further and say available, and let's say we have something like 4,753.70 remaining. Okay, cool. And then the next card we can say payment due. We want to know when this has to be paid off. So payment due in, and then just really big, we'll say 2 days. Again, this is all really quick and dirty. Some of it might be hard to read, but ultimately this is going to be great to present to stakeholders, to product lead, to say, hey, look at this. This is what I'm thinking. Instead of presenting this in a total verbal form of communication, we can say, hey, check this out. Let's have a meeting. Look at these. And it can even inspire other team members to think, yeah, actually, let's try that, because they know exactly what you're thinking because we have visual studies right in front of us. So let's continue on with this one. So we have some of this information, and then let's actually repeat kind of what we did with the other one. And so I'm actually going to take this section here and see how much we can fit in. Well, you know what? We can actually do something even totally different too. Let's say we have a module below that. And again, this is like a really fintech approach, but we say weekly activity. And here we have sort of just a quick chart of spending habits. Maybe it's throughout the week you spent more as the week went on, and that's what we're showing here. But again, we don't have to get hung up on the details necessarily. Then after that, what I'm going to do is take the transactions here and see if we can fit that in below. And I'm just gonna paste that in there. And maybe for this one, actually, instead of calling it transactions, maybe we vet out a different name for it, and it's recent activity. Again, it's probably a little bit difficult to read, but it works for what I'm doing. Cool, and you get the idea. We could probably do this a fourth time, but I think this illustrates everything I wanted to communicate. So here we have 3 very different ideas, all delivering the same rough scope, which is we have a wallet feature. So this exercise specifically was done in around 10 minutes, and that's awesome. That's great. For something more in-depth like this, beautiful. This can also be used for more simple things. Maybe we're just adding in a feature layer on top of something else and we're quickly sketching things. This is more in depth. It's almost a flagship feature. We're adding a new page to this application. It took a little bit longer, but again, if I were to have pulled up inspiration beforehand, it could even go faster. Another exercise you could do while doing this is a method of time management called time boxing. So I think we went a little bit over 10 minutes here. What we could do is set a clock for 10 minutes and race ourselves. How many can we get done, and cut it off at 10, or finish the last one you're working on. Or like I mentioned in the design sprint video, doing an exercise like crazy 8s. Every minute you're doing something, and then we have 8 different approaches here, which would be awesome. So the next thing I would do with these sketches, luckily we only have 3. If we had a bunch, we would probably want to narrow them down so we're not just throwing a ton of options at our team and our leads. But with 3 here, it's great. We would then take this to a meeting with our leads, with our product owner and everything like that, our stakeholders. We would have conversations about what we like and don't like, where we're heading with this. The beauty of it is the only thing we had to prepare was about 10 minutes of sketching. After we aligned on certain things, we could either go to a round 2 revisions of sketching, or if we thought we had enough clarity coming out of those discussions, we could move right into wireframes, or depending on where you're at with design system and roadmap, you could go into high fidelity comps too. But what I'm gonna do in a next video is show how I take these sketches and transition them into wireframes, which brings in a little bit more UX into the thinking, where UX right now in sketches, it's prominent, clearly it's prominent, but we're also vetting out ideas and trying to go as wide as possible. So stay tuned for that video. Cool, we did it. That was the power of sketching your design ideas. This isn't something I'm just preaching and not practicing. This is actually my normal day-to-day workflow, and I think the more experienced you get, the more this is beneficial, or the more you can get into this practice will help you later on in your design career. If you got something from this video, please give me a thumbs up and a subscribe, because I'm always putting out new videos every single week relating to design. And with that in mind, I think that is everything I needed to say. So until next time, super nice guy out.